Can we use the word think when it comes to computers? Do computers think?
Well, you know what Alan Turing said about that? That was just fraught with trying to understand what the word think meant. So I kind of side with Alan Turing. But I wanted to get back to something that's kind of underneath this question of computers and should they think like us? I agree entirely with Roger. Why? I mean, I think we can say something about why, but when you use a computer to model systems in the physical world, you don't expect them to do it or act like those systems in the world. And yet, there's something that just grabs people when you're modeling us and our thinking that suddenly they want to know if it's going to be like us or if it's going to take over. And you opened with talking about science fiction. So I wanted to point out that people's fear, and it's really fear that gets reflected in the science fiction.
That the robots are going to take over and get rid of us.
Right, but this is an old fear that goes back at least to the Golem of Prague, which was in the 1500s, something made of clay, right, that, acted like us. So, by the way, this is a deep-seated fear in the Western world. It's not there in Japan. So there's something going on here, but that's what Frankenstein was about. And
so are you saying that we shouldn't worry about that?
I am.
Yeah. So Elon Musk is wrong. Stephen Hawking was wrong.
That's
there are
correct.
these people who've said that, watch out. I mean, runaway AI could take over, eliminate us.
I think there are many things to worry about, many right now with AI systems, and that those worries are distracting us from paying attention to the things that we should be concerned about, and that everybody in this room could be taking action to help get more attention paid to. So
okay, I'm going to come back to those later, but Roger, you don't worry about AI taking over?
No. No, I'm not worried. I'm worried about a lot of things, but not particularly that. It's an interesting question, though, but I'm not worried, no.
And what about that question of do computers think? How would you respond to that?
Does a tree think? So what constitutes thinking? It's a hard question. But we use words very haphazardly. What's this word? Easily. We say that the computer didn't understand me, or the computer is thinking now, and the computer remembered. My phone doesn't remember. We use all these words that we use for humans about our things. And
let me just follow up on the
we-
trees for a moment. And actually, that's a very interesting question because trees have all kinds of ways of responding to natural stimuli, to whether it's insects, whether it's wind patterns, and they respond based on all of this stuff. You could, I don't know, is that thinking?
Yeah, is it conscious? So there are all these things that are hard to define, and we're poking into them. Life, thinking, consciousness, understanding, and these words are all vague, and they can be defined in different ways. When you settle on the definition, then you can answer those questions. But that's the hard part. So how to define all these
Well,
words?
okay. I mean, let's just throw out that word conscious. So, I mean, when people talk about consciousness, does something have consciousness? It usually means, is there subjective experience? Can there be a feeling of pleasure or pain? Would that be possible for computers or computer systems, AI?
Sure, why not? I mean, seriously, why not? I mean, that's the thing. If you can prove to me that it's impossible for some reason, I would go along with that. But why not?
Impossibility is always hard to prove, except
Yes.
in certain mathematical contexts.
Yes.
But I'll ask the question of whether an agent, so I'm already presupposing agency and autonomy, needs to be alive to be conscious.
And what's the answer?
Well, I think so, and I don't think machines are alive.
Yeah, so you can, but why not go there all the way? We can make consciousness. Why not? So the simplest proof of that is that nature has built a thing that is conscious, and it's our brain. So it's certainly possible to configure stuff, matter, in such a way that it becomes conscious. Easy, proof done. Ostensibly, we are here, we're conscious. Why can't we not engineer that? That's the hard question. And yeah, why not?
I think the answer is we don't know.
Yeah.
But you can't tell by the words that we use. Actually, Turing also said this. He predicted not only something about the so-called Turing test, but he predicted that 50 years from when he wrote this program, which was he wrote it in 1950, so 2000, that people would talk about machines thinking and nobody would question them. And as Roger's pointed out, we all do it. But that's attribution to the machine. And we know there's some really wonderful studies that show that you don't have to be a complicated machine for people to attribute even intentions to you. So there are psychology experiments where they have like little balls moving around on a screen and it's triangles, and the balls are, I quote, chasing the triangles. Now, I don't know about you, but I have trouble attributing consciousness or intention to it, and yet as people trying to explain what's going on, we find it very useful to do that attribution.
Yeah, and it's very easy to do this. You can take a cardboard box, and this was actually an experiment in New York. Cardboard box with a little flag that says "help," and the only thing this robot does is go forward. It's what's called Tweenbot or something, and they made videos of this. And people, had empathy with this thing. It's a cardboard box with wheels, with a flag that says "help." I need to go to the south corner, and people are like, and it fell over, and people are like, oh. And if it takes that little to get empathy with the machine, think about what's going on now. We have voice assistants and we have these AIs that are, much more, what's the word? Powerful, and it's easy to attribute these things.
So it sounds like one of the differences between your two perspectives is, for you, Roger, the line between alive and not alive is not so significant in terms of some of these other things that we talk about, whether it's consciousness or maybe even thinking, whereas for you, Barbara, that's a fundamental dividing line. Do I have that right?
At the moment, yeah, till somebody shows me otherwise. And I do want to go back to your question, because I think that one could ask about kinds of thinking. And so we talked earlier about machines being very good at taking large amounts of data and recognizing patterns. But they're not very good at determining causes and effects. And they have no capability to do what's called reason counterfactually or hypothetically. If I go this direction, this will happen. And if I go that direction, this will happen. So which direction should I go?